social science research, how data science came into social science, and what is the scope of big data and big data analysis in social science research. This will be our initial part, and later we will move to the what you say, the analytical part of learning, doing some data analysis using that R. Okay, I have planned, I have scheduled some exercises, and I have prepared some codes also to do some, to practice your exercises. That's why I asked you to install R and R Studio on your computer. And there are many, what you say, self learning platforms are there. As that day I introduced one platform, no, Data Camp. Like that, many self learning blogs and self learning platforms are there, where you can use it for your clarification. Don't get much into that, you will get scared about the computer programming. Okay, so today's scope is, no, just a minute, I forget to share the screen. Yeah, just again, data science, how the data, how data science can be taken to social science research. Okay, just a brief presentation. As I said, no, discussing some theoretical point of theoretical view of data science, how it came to the picture of social science research, that we will see. Okay, so again, I am stressing to the question, the most pressing question here, which is again, what is data science? Okay, data science, data science is the science of extracting knowledge and insights from social data. Okay, so don't okay, it is the science. You see, it is a science, it is not like any art, no, it is a science of extracting knowledge and insights from social data. Okay, in our case, the data scientists, no, are very well versed at parsing and analyzing the large amounts of data. And then of course, we are social science, we are in the background of discipline of social science and social scientists. We know that social science, the study, we all know social science is the study of people's society and individuals within a society. So as a social science student, we all have different methodological training within our disciplines. As we learned some methodological training, no, like qualitative, quantitative. In qualitative methodology methods, various approaches, and in quantitative methods, various approaches. So each within our discipline, we all have different methodological training that we have to contribute to the growth of data science. That is why how it what you say, the data and what you say, the data analysis is the new science. Data science is going to couple with the social science. As our discipline, we got trained to the our own methodology in our disciplines. So the thing is to contribute to the growth of data science, importantly, with the methodological training. Okay, so here it is our, as a social scientist, our crucial role to play in shaping data science is more important. So right now I have shared you that R and R Studio. No, there are more graphical user interfaces. Okay, even SPSS, you heard about the SPSS, statistical package for social science analysis, social science research. No, that is an example for GUI, what is called as graphical user interface, where which doesn't have that much support to analyze a big data or real data or social data. Okay, so here the data, this R and Python, the programming language, will enable to work with the data science, where this in the mode of GUI, graphical user interface. More about data science, more broadly, when we used data science in the social science. So what motivation might be for you to learn about more about data science is to, social scientists have been working with different types of data. We have been working with different types of data more than 100 years. No, what I mean here is different types of data in the sense like social data, psychological, opinion, behavioral, psychometric data. So, okay, and if you say see statistically, you know, nominal data, ordinal, nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio. These are the types of data. Okay, so we have been working as a social scientist. We have been working for in this different types of data for more than 100 years, and probably what has happened in recent times is what has happened in recent times. We initially, when the social scientists used to work with the different types of data, but what has happened in the recent times is datafication. This is what happened in the recent days. So about 10 years really is the datafication. So virtually everything you all know that every time, for example, every time you purchase something, every time you take a book out of the library, or you are checking out a product from a cart, from a shopping app or shopping website. No, you really make any kind of transaction, it's almost being tracked. Okay, we know, no, that is what we call it as a digital footprint. Okay, what we call it as a digital footprint. Every time you make a transaction, or if you every time, for example, you're taking a book out of the library, no, it will have a data. So it is a kind of data system. Okay, it is a kind of data system, and it's identification of virtually everything. Okay, what the one more term is the digital footprint. It has, no, that footprint is becomes the kind of data system which helps to identify virtually everything. So that is what that is what here mean it as datafication. So previously what we have discussed is, as a social scientist, we have been dealing with the different types of data for more than 100 years. Probably what happened to recent times to the data is datafication. We have abundance of data. That means digital data, digital footprints become available in the form of in the mode of datafication. So in those days, no, previous days, no, when we used in the past, no, we just able to think about only a sample. Okay, for any research, no, we will take some sample, and currently the reality is we would actually we can approach the whole population. No need to go for a sample. Depending on our research question, we can approach the whole population. That is population, that is possible in the recent times and nowadays. But those days in the past, no, it's just thinking about only the sample, the research question. So that is radically changing the way how we actually process the and use the data. Okay, so the sample data, those days we have taken the sample data, but nowadays, what we say, based on your research question, depending on the research question, we can could actually approach the whole population. That is how we are going to use the data. And the way that we use statistics is also changing. You see, those days when we have taken samples, no, we will be dealing with the p-value. Okay, that is to say elementary level, no, it's a significant p-value. But now we are going to, with the invention of inventing, getting into the data science, we are going to deal with the population depending on the research question. Now what the p-value is going to do, we don't know. So the way we use statistics is also actually going to change. Okay, and the phenomena. Okay, so for example, if you take Twitter data, social media data from Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, no, every time you make a comment or someone comment on online forum, they will ask questions about society, which is what social science is all about. The people used to discuss about their opinion, their behavior, their attitude in the online media, like so online social media like Twitter, Facebook. So this means this will help you to know, learn the society. Don't forget, keep these things in mind. These things are say common. The phenomena that you want to go, the phenomenon that you are going to study with the samples, based on the research questions and based on the statistics, that is the p-value, it's going to, the way that we are going to approach the problem is going, it's going to change because of data science, because of this big data, abundance of data, where we are approaching the population. Okay, it is not the sample. So to stop this no, social science to understand the phenomenon a little bit, they want to better counteract the more effective way to not to do things like in the how it is happening in the social media. It's really timely, because how now not only the data, the how people are commenting or how people are sharing their opinion or attitude on the social media, ethics matters. Ethics is also one of the important question. So how we are going to treat this? As you all know, no, it is a documented, and in some data it is an undocumented, what we call it as structured, as I said in the previous class, no, structured data, unstructured data, and how we are going to treat those population when we are going to study the phenomena. So this data science has made a new arena or new innovative method or approach to study the social science research. So it is a different what is a niche area, new innovative development that one has to do research methodologically. You have to find out how to approach the new data. So if that, because the data is not a in online, no, websites, no, data is not a structured one. Those days we analyze data and we did statistics with the structured data. Now in online, no, it's what you say, it's an unstructured data are there, that we will see which is structured data and what is unstructured data, and what we can do with this unstructured data. So this course will help you, know, give you a foundation. This course will give you a, what you say, foundation for the computational tools, that is especially the R and other collections are there in online. So that's the revolutionizing the social science. You can imagine if we have more data, no, and the more robust information available online, no, we can, what you say, the triangulate the information. So as you learned about the triangulation in research method, no, that is just approaching a problem qualitatively as well as quantitatively. So that is how here they mean the triangulate the information in different ways. It's really changing. So based on your what you say, what makes you to triangulate the information, and in a research problem, in a research approach, what we need is research question or a research direction. Okay, if you have a research question or a research direction, we can approach the data and we can triangulate the information. That triangulating the information is possible in data science, qualitative and quantitative. Then it becomes a really what you say, a multidisciplinary community. So it becomes a multidisciplinary community. You see, data science is a multidisciplinary approach, just based mainly on the methods of statistics and computer science, which is suitably okay, we supplement the knowledge of different domains and new challenges for actual information society. Where we are is now is the actual information society. So the aim of data science is to develop appropriate methodologies for purpose of knowledge forecasting and decision making. In the previous class, previous session, we discussed about what you say, the predictive modeling, which helps for decision making. So the aim of data science is to develop appropriate methodologies for purposes of knowledge forecasting and decision making. Okay. Oh, just a minute. So in the face of you see with the characteristics of large amounts of data, what we call it as big data. Let me see what data is in the later slides. What data is, then it will be easy for you to understand what is the data and how to approach the data. So the first aim is to develop an appropriate methodology for purpose of knowledge. Why no? As I said before, those days we approached what you say, the research problem with what you say, the taking up the phenomena and having an hypothesis and approaching a sample and applying the statistics and finding the p value. That was done. So now it is going to be really totally, we can it's possible to approach what you say, the population. So everything, methodology has to be changed. So this aim is to develop an appropriate methodology for purpose of knowledge forecasting and decision making, because of the increasingly complex reality characterized by large amounts of data, that is big data of various types. What are the types of data available in the big data? Numeric data, ordinal, nominal, symbolic data, text, images, data streams, multivariate data, and networks. And as of now, as a traditional researcher, we are okay with the what you say, the types of data like numeric, ordinal, nominal, and interval. Okay, but these data are new to us, which are available because of this big data, symbolic data, text data. We can what you say, analyze the text data. We can approach the images, data streams, multi-way data just coming and going. Okay, and the networks coming from disparate sources, various and disparate sources, how we are going to approach. So that is why it is a multidisciplinary approach, and our aim is to develop a appropriate methodology. So how that is going to help with this computational tools and computational programmings. And we are in the stage of what you say, the basic level of understanding the concept and just getting into the preliminary and basic analysis that we will be practicing. So if you see any research, no, okay, what is the epistemological consequence in this data? The first epistemological consequence of the passage, no, from data scarce to data intensive societies. Now we are living in a, what you say, data intensive society. Okay, it's not a data scarcity. Data scarcity is not here, not we are not living in a era of data scarcity. We are living in a era of data intensive society. There is abundance of data available every day. So this has been the emergence of re-emergence of data driven science, which is opposed to hypothesis driven science, that is typically of post positivist social science. As I was telling this, no, that is hypothesis driven science. That's what we have been doing in the epistemology before this data science. Now this data science enable us to be what you say, because of the data intensiveness available, data driven science. This is going to be data driven science, which is opposed to be a post positivist social science. So as we have no different methodological world views, no, in that we have to be very clear in the epistemological consequence that you are going to face with the data science. It is not a consequence. This consequence, it's one of the taking it as a, what do you say, the challenge. The main argument of this, no, data first model of science which will enable to track the human behavior and precision, exploring the existing data may be more useful than building models for why people behave the way they do. Okay, those days, no, the model has been tested. They developed theories, well developed models, and well formulated theories has been tested with the sample or with the power, with the population. That is the approach in the epistemology, which we call it as the positivist and post positivist science, post positivist approach, post positivism. Okay, but now it totally changed because of exploring the existing data. Only thing what we need is the basic research direction, what we call it as the research question. Okay, so it's this exploring existing data will be more useful than building models of why people behave the way they do. Okay, so big data as the core of new field of social science, which makes intensive use of computer science. Secondary, you see, secondary research, yeah, we can take it as a second. It is not secondary research, it's a secondary data. Okay, primary, you see, research can be approached in a primary data and secondary data. Okay, because of this medium and technology, no, we can name it as the secondary data. Again, if you say those days when we are approaching the secondary data also based on the, what you say, theory driven or hypothesis driven science, then you will decide where to go take data, and you will be going and taking the archives or what you say, extracting the you will be taking data, collecting data from there. That will be a collective, what you say, the secondary data. Okay, literature, they used to say simply, if you want to say, no, the secondary, it's not secondary research, secondary data is going to be the literature, and some statistical institutes, they have the stock of data where we can take it. Okay, but here totally different. We are exploring the existing data. Okay, exploring the existing data with the research question, and you see this data. I will tell you, the secondary data what you are mentioning here is a repository or database. Okay, what we are going to argue later is data is not a repository and data is not a database. It's a process. It keeps on changing in the online world. That is going to be our argument or discuss presentation, because secondary data is totally different, which is a database. Here what we are going to mention in new data science or big data is data is not a repository or a database, which it is a process. It keeps on changing as a unit. How you see this in the researcher's point of view, worldview. Okay, we'll come to that later. Big data is as the core of new field of social science, which makes intensive use of computer science. That's a computational social science, regimen by Laser 2006. For him, no, these vast data sets and how people interact were offering new perspectives on what you say, the collective human behavior. That's what happening in the new medium, online or social medium. No, it's a collective human behavior. So these vast data sets will provide you opportunity to learn how people interact, where offering new perspectives on collective human behavior. So as the availability of big quantities of data has grown, the main traditional survey, empirical empirical basis of quantitative data science, no, the surveys and experiments is being dismantled in favor of this new data analysis. No need to go for a, what you say, the empirical basis, because as I said, no, the digital footprint. Now we have to be in a system as an administrator, how to capture the digital footprints, which will help us for analyzing analysis and do a big data. It is not going to be the empirical basis how we do in the previous days, like surveys and experiments, which is going to be dismantled in favor of this new data analysis. And some institutional, what you say, the traditional survey campaigns, and after surveying, no, and sentiment analysis is substituting this traditional election polls. Okay, those days, no, they will go for uh, uh, pre-poll. Okay, pre-polling of before election. Okay, now it has been changed. No need to go for that sort of a traditional campaign and traditional survey campaign and getting those election polls. No, just you can do a sentiment analysis and the network analysis, which will substitute for this traditional election poll, which proved to be less effective than in the past. Okay, so it because nearly all why, no, why? Because why this traditional form of survey campaigns, traditional form of collecting data are getting dismantled because of a new data analysis is because nearly all of our activities from birth to death leave digital traces in large databases. Okay, that is what I mentioned. I mean here as what you say, digital footprints from birth to death, because we are all digital natives. Almost 1/3 of the population has been in the category strata of digital natives, and rest of them have been digital immigrants. It's going to be the digital era. So we are leaving the digital traces in the large databases. So social scientists who had to rely on account of these actions for their research questions, no, using new data can be in the action without asking questions are being seen. Okay, for example, if you go for a traditional survey or traditional questionnaire, no, you will be administering an interview schedule or a questionnaire, survey questionnaire. You have to administer it to the respondents. Okay, now this because of this digital traces and digital footprints, new data can be in the action without asking questions are being seen to the people. So this is going to be the real data. Instead of administering a questionnaire, they'll become conscious. This is going to be the real data. So after the enthusiasm about this data abundance and data during the past years, the critical data studies, have become deeply understand what is the context and where. Okay, let me come to this point. As I said, no need to administer a questionnaire or a survey as how we do in the traditional surveys and the experiments. Because of this new data, without asking questions and being seen by the people, we can explore the existing data, because all we from the birth to death we have the digital traces in the large databases. Okay, and this after this all enthusiasm about the data abundance of data and data what you say the data delivered in the past years, no, the critical data studies have evolved, carried out more deeply to understand what is the context of validity of new data. Okay, so if you take a research point of three things: reliability, validity, and what you say generalizability, and one more thing, reproducibility. So if it's you see, in the first level, no need to generalizability and reproducibility comes later. The first very most valid point is reliability and validity. So if you take up this data studies as a series, no, if you're putting it into social science research or an epistemological consequence, no, what is the context of validity of this new data? This has to be clearly mentioned, because there is no validity or no reliability in the data, then the total process and the total application, what you say, the total science won't be accepted in the research arena. So special attention has to be paid. For example, the voluntary contents generated on the social networks, no, they represent massive quantity of data, but the data has to be contextualized. Otherwise, it becomes difficult to make sense of them. For example, no, as I said, no, again coming to the research point of view, it's not like blindly, what you say, blindly jumping on the ocean or blindly jumping on any river. So with the research question and the research direction, here the mind in the epistemologically, it has to be contextualized. So based on the context, you have to approach the problem that builds more validity for the new data. Okay, why I have been stressing out here is, see the slide, the re-emergence of data-driven science, which is opposed to hypothesis-driven science. Okay, because when it comes to hypothesis, no, it has validity and reliability comes from various studies. So that's why it comes from the secondary, what you say, research and literature, hypothesis-driven science, which will help you to approach a problem in the post-positivist social science approach, which will give you hypothesis-driven science. But this new data and big data will be re-emergence of, it's going to be a data-driven science. Then if that is the case, what is the validity? You have to contextualize. It has to be, the need to be contextualized based on the approach. Okay, let's see the big data versus sample. As I said, no, the sample is a validity. Here the question of validity. Moreover, despite the often made claim made, no, big data provides total population. Okay, that's what our statement, no, big data provides total population's response. No need to go for a sample. Okay, only thing is, for a validity you have to, what you say, the contextualization is important. In what context the research question has been arised, and in what context you are going to extract the data and going to insight the knowledge in the data. Here big data provides total population, ending our reliance on samples. This is rarely the case for social media data. See, for example, working with Twitter has serious methodological challenges that rarely addressed by those who really take up that Twitter data. Twitter, you see, if you see Twitter data, no, Twitter does not represent people, and it is an error to assume people, Twitter users as synonymous. They are a very particular subset. Okay, what we claim is big data provides total population, which ending our reliance on samples. No, it totally get fails over here. If you are really doing in a research, the validity is more important. So the Twitter does not. If you are doing a research on what you say, Twitter or any social media platform, especially the Twitter does not represent the people, the whole population. It is an error assuming people that Twitter uses synonymous. They are very particular subset. When using data from the web, no, you recognize the part of the population is not accessible because some people does not have access to the internet, and that many are passive consumers of internet information. So then how you will take this Twitter represents the whole population? You're just assuming the people from the Twitter data, and this is going to be the people's mindset or people's belief or people's attitude towards, especially if you're taking in the countries like developed countries. Okay, so there are many passive consumers of internet, and the part of the population is not accessible to the internet because accessible to these type of platforms because they does not have access to the internet. So access may also be segmented. So this access has to be segmented, what we call as the socio demographic characteristics. Those who are in what you say the level of income, education, that this system will exclude some strata of the population from the research. Okay, then we can't claim the big data as a population. So, for example, there was a survey in the USA which has given a source that Twitter has a disproportionate number of young and male Black Hispanic users compared to the national population. This was really given, said in a research finding. So these methodological concerns, big data versus samples, the validity, question mark to the validity. So these methodological concerns about validity and coverage rise also more deep into the sociological and political questions about to what extent this data may be used for the analysis of society. Here the question. So what aspects of the social reality they really capture and how they can be customized for designing, implementing, monitoring, and evaluating social policies. So it's a very big question mark. Okay, this validity is the first methodological concern. If you take up any research, any approach or any research, no, the first point you ask yourself, uh, how this research is going to be valid, how this sample, how this data is going to be valid to generalize my findings. Okay, so this is very important methodological concern about validity because it's more deep sociological and political questions. What extent these data used for analysis of the society, what aspects of the social reality they capture, this big data capture, and how this big data can be customized for designing, implementing, monitoring, and evaluating the social policies. However, still more research is needed. If you take up this social science research perspective, still more research is needed. What kind of analytics can be usefully managed at what policy level, and really what demanded for that policy making, how these information are collected, how this data, big data are collected, organized, integrated, and interpreted by whom and for what purposes. So these are the questions that has to be justified for providing your validity in the methodology. So okay, validity is one of the important factor in your research methodology. It is what is done with data is important. Making sense of new data pose new analytical challenges. As I said, no, in your research methodology, the validity, because if you, though the traditional way of methodology is just a phenomena and approaching to the research question with the samples justifying the validity with the p-value or some statistical approach, but that won't be what you say adapted as such for this big data. How you're going to collect the data, organize the data, integrating, interrogating, interpretation, and whom and for what purpose, that the contextualization of the data. So it's useful themselves. So these are the typical, what you say, the analytical challenges in big data. If you take this big data as a serious concern for a serious thing for a social science research. Okay, so as I said, the analytical challenges. What are the analytical challenges? No, the data processing activity, such as I said, organizing, collecting. First, the data processing activity is one of the major analytical challenge in the big data for research. So new data actually require more attempts to process, where the data have to be prepared for pre-prepared for analysis through data selection, curation, and reduction. So you have to, so this is one of the major area. Data processing activity has to be systematically structured. So pre-analytical work can be extremely hard and time consuming of data. Scientists and data scientists are what you say devoting more research and more time to seek the most productive, effective, efficient and effective way to undertake, especially to automate this work. As I said, big data versus samples versus validity. So here the question mark, really the validity questions. So how you are going to take this for your research? So as I said, there are various analytical challenges that has to be addressed towards this big data to make it this a valid research activity. So the data processing activity, the pre-analytical activity, which involves this data selection, curation, and data reduction. So the data, as I said, the data scientist don't what is it? Keep it in mind. The data scientist means the statisticians and the computational, what is it? The computer science. Okay, the statistics and computer science together will give a data scientist. Okay, using these computational social sciences. So they are devoting more time and more research to seek the, what you say, most productive and efficient way to do this pre-analytical works, especially to automate this work, to extract the data, to collect the data, to select the data, to curate the data, and how to reduce the data perfect to the context we are going to analyze. And the second challenge is, first analytical challenge is the processing activity, because the question is validity. Okay, the data processing activity, it has to be systematically justified. Uh, the next one is the data mining. So the analysis of very large number of data records, can be only by computer. This extracting the large number of data can run only by computer algorithm. And much work is about developing automated process. As you know, social scientist, data scientists devoting more time to what you say, more time to undertake the way of, especially to automate this work. Selection, curation, and reduction work has been done automatically. So they are devoting more time. So that is done using this mining computer algorithm. The work is about developing automated process where we can access and learn from the data and their analysis, what we call so-called machine learning. So machine learning seeks to iteratively evolving an understanding of data sets for data mining in order to detect, classify, and segment meaningful relationships, associations, and trends between variables. So machine learning, there is a, you can take it as an artificial intelligence also, machine learning, the computer algorithm. To put it in a simple term, it's a data mining, which will help you to use it for collect, detect, classify, and segment meaningful relationships, associations, and trends between variables. One of the perfect example is how you translate. I will tell you a basic example. The Google translates. No, it has been. You can see the difference. How the Google has been translating the statements or sentences some 2-3 years before and how it is now. It's becoming more accurate and more new words. For example, English to Tamil or English to Malayalam or English to any language, it is getting more finer, and every day it is more fine. That is not the case. The same statement was translated some 3 years before. It's not the result giving now. So machine learning, taking input from the users. Okay, that is a different computer algorithm. So that is what the machine learning, which will help for the data mining to detect, classify, and segment meaningful relationships, associations, and trends between the variables. That is going to be the research. Okay, only the relationship, association, and the trend. Okay, the elementary level of research. So the data mining, no, the data mining may employ, you see, many techniques. The data mining employ many techniques, including the natural language processing, NLP, neural networks, decision trees, and statistical methods, parametric and non-parametric tests. So the data mining is one of the second analytical challenge for big data to prove it to prove it as a, what you say, the valid data with the population. So there are, as I said, different techniques: natural language processing, neural networks, decision trees are the machine learning techniques. Statistics is the basic one where we all going to perform. So what is required to these techniques, and what are the challenges for these techniques? For natural language processing, no, the selection of these techniques varies according to the type of data. As I say, no, structured data, unstructured, semi-structured, the object based on the objective of the analysis. Okay, for example, and if you take an unstructured data, just scrapping or extracting, scrapping out from the web, it becomes unstructured data. If you want to do the natural language challenge, will give you the data mining challenges. This semantic, it needs semantics and taxonomies. So as a machine learning, it should know about the semantics, the meanings, how to what you say, qualitative study. Okay, the semantics of any word or sentence or image or picture or visual. Well, here it's a natural language processing for a sentence of words. No, this machine learning needs semantics and taxonomies to recognize the patterns and extract information from the documents. So this is one of the this is also one of the analytical challenge which required for this data mining, natural language processing, which needs semantics and taxonomies. And the typical application of such technique is sentiment analysis. You heard about
பூபாலன் சார் இன்டர்நெட் ஏதோ இஷ்யூவா இருக்கு போல. ஒரு 5 மினிட்ஸ் வெயிட் பண்ண சொன்னாங்க. எல்லாம் போயிட்டீங்க.
Hello, students. Sorry, there was a power failure. Are people still there? Am I audible? Oh, thank you. Okay, what we are discussing is about the yeah. So considering taking this issue of validity, the research method or research method in the with the what you say, taking it to the big data, what is going to be the validity? We are discussing about various challenges, various analytical challenges that is going to be addressed, taken care to understand the validity about this big data. The first one, what we have seen is the data processing activity. Okay, the data processing activity just to be justifiable one, because how this has come is because of this what you say, the Twitter. For example, we have taken a case of Twitter. Twitter is not the representation of a people or representation of a population, because in our strata of people doesn't have the access to internet. People are there, then how we can say it's a validity? So everything has to be contextualized based on the research question and direction to justify. And then coming to the new data posing new analytical challenges, the first one is the data processing activity, which has to be justifiable, which is to be justifiable one. Data selection, data curation, and data reduction, which is a process of pre-preparing works. As I said, no, the data scientists devoting more time, more research into this to make this process as an automated process for data extraction, data selection, curation, and reduction, which will give you the most productive, efficient, and effective ways of doing analysis. And the second analytical challenge is the data mining, which, as I said, no, the data mining, which is the order to detect, classify, and segment meaningful relationship and associations and trends between the variables that you have chosen under the context of your study, which is being done using the computer algorithm, which we call as a machine learning program. It's a machine learning. Machine learning will help you. No, I gave an example of Google Translate, how it was some 3 years before and how it is doing now. That's we can put it in the artificial intelligence. It's doing good, doing fine than how it was 3 years before. Okay, just getting the inputs and correcting itself. That is what they call it as the machine learning from our inputs, our data. And the third, in the data mining technique, there are various techniques and challenges which also comes under the big data analytical challenge, which involves some techniques like natural language processing, neural networks, decision trees, and statistical. Don't get fear about these decision trees, that neural networks and natural language processing and statistical. I will tell you in the order of level of understanding how what we are going to work is the statistics, non-parametric and parametric methods, and at the maximum we will get into the natural language processing. We are not going to dive into the area of neural networks and decision trees, which is an advanced level of analysis and data mining techniques. We don't know. Just I am putting it here, the mining techniques that are available. Okay, just we will be concentrating in our course like only the statistical parametrics, parametric and non-parametric test methods in the statistics, and natural language processing. So the challenges for this natural language processing, the data mining, because as I said, the web extraction, scrapping from the web data, which is of and some unstructured data, nature of data is available, so which needs semantics and taxonomies to recognize the patterns and the extract information from the documents. So for that, a typical application is required. Typical application of such technique is required, what we call it as sentiment analysis in natural language processing. As I said, the traditional, you just recall the previous slide what we have discussed with the traditional election polling, it has been switched over to the sentiment analysis. No need to go for a, what do you say, the traditional strategic campaign planning and getting survey campaign. Okay, just do the sentiment analysis to know the sentiment of the people. What I mean here, sentiment analysis is the emotions. Okay, we want to deal more about sentiment analysis in our later classes. How we are going to approach the sentiment analysis. Sentimentally positive, negative, and neutral are the basic sentiments. And if we go more into that sentiment, no, the different emotions are the sentiments. Okay, the joy, fear, happy, all this comes under the sentiment. So that sort of typical application is required. That application should have a need a semantic and taxonomy to recognize the pattern. So that is one of the challenge for this natural language processing and data visualization for the neural networks. Another analytical challenge, is about data visualization, which is the visual analysis, visual analytics, which comes under the neural networks more effectively to communicate the structure, pattern, and trends of the variables and their relationship in a visual form. So it's one of the another challenge for the developers involved. So, and the last challenge, but not least, is the stock of descriptive and inferential statistics that has been traditionally used to analyze the traditional data. They are also applying new data. So this is not always straightforward because many of these techniques were developed to draw insights from the relatively scarce rather than the exhaustive data. Further research is required to generate new methods and innovative combinations of techniques that can make a sense of extract value from big data, what we call the data infrastructure. So these challenges are not only simply technical, because analytics are the expressions of a particular epistemology. Okay, now we are getting into the research methodology. As what we have discussed now, data processing, data mining, the computer algorithm languages, and the different techniques to learn the qualitative as well as the natural language processing, like the semantics, qualitative study. These are not only simply technical. These analytics are the expressions of a particular, what you say, the epistemology. So therefore, both technical research and epistemological research are required to tackle the challenges of the data revolution. So the data revolution has to be tackled both technically and as well as the epistemologically. I am very sorry. Yeah, nothing new. I thought I have shared your screen. Sorry, wait a minute. Is it okay now?
Yes.
I didn't notice. Yeah, we are still in the same, what you say, the same slide. The power went off, no? So these challenges are not technical, the analytical expressions, no, which requires the epistemological approach also. So it has to be parallelly, both technical and epistemological research are required to take the challenges of this data revolution. Okay, yeah, data revolution. The next is the big data. Okay, the datification. The datafication. I will wait. I will put you that. So here's what happens every minute on the internet. Big data. I think you can see this, no? Okay. So the expansion of datafication, quantification. The first time in history, the social research has available a huge amount of data. Okay, not only a great variety of phenomena, also directly naturally generated for the most data are generated by the social actors. As you should know, the users generating the content. So this is just a slide. What happens in every minute? What happens every minute of the day? What's 41 crores, nearly 41 crores message has been shared in WhatsApp. Video voice calls, 1 crore, more than a crore. You see, consumers spend more than $1 crore. Okay, Facebook users share this much messages. Amazon ships these packages. This happens in every minute of the day. This is what we call it as the expansion of datification or quantification. Really, this is the history. Why they're telling the history, in social research, because for social research, this made us to available a huge amount of data. Not only the variety of phenomena which has been already available, the data are directly and naturally generated by the users, or these what we call technically as social actors who produce those phenomena. So the volume of this spontaneous generation of digital data is truly striking. According to some estimates here, what happens every minute is displayed here. Okay, it is interesting to note that big data and social research is proposing again almost the arguments developed at the beginning of the new millennium, in the molecular biology research, they they developed this debate in the starting of the new millennium, and that is not yet concluded. Okay, with the flood of information from genomics, proteomics, and microarrays, what we really need now is the computer software. Okay, what we really need is the computer software. So this was the statement debate started in the new millennium for in the area of molecular biology research. So with the flood of information from genomics, proteomics, and microarrays, what we really need is the computer software to tell us what it all means. Molecular biology. So the same question now, because of the data, what happens in every minute of a day. This is the 2020 data. Now every day it is getting increasing. So the same question could represent what we are now debating in the case of social sciences. So we can enough to substitute the data sources with the flood of information from the web, the official statistics pages, the official statistics, United Nations statistics, because all these governance administrators, they are connecting to the digital data. So the flood of information from the web, official statistics page, and the record of huge amount of social activities on the medium. What we really need now is the computer software to tell us what it all means. Okay, this was started, the debate started for molecular biologists in the new millennium. Now it has come to the social science because of availability of data and the web, official statistics, and the amount of social activities people involved. We really need now is a computer software to tell us what it all means. That is what the big data comes into the picture. So what we need is real computer software to tell us what this data means, what actually means. So this way of addressing the problem, is as well as opposition of a data driven versus a hypothesis driven research. I said in the previous slides, like data driven science. Okay, so hypothesis driven science almost focus on how to handle data, how to produce the effect of living in the background, and the fact that data do not exist. Okay, so it's a very complex process. How to approach the data, how to handle the data, it's a very complex process. But how this computational social science is going to help us to do this, which producing data deeply, they cannot be considered separately. So now coming to your okay, the discussion, the debate, the argument said in the earlier slide is databases are not a repository. So as in the previous image, what we have seen, what happens in a minute, okay, it keep on changing. So databases are not a repository. As a starting point, we can refer this passage with this Von Forster, which puts perfectly the aim of looking big data in a critical perspective. This case addressing the relationship between intrinsic characteristics of what we are used to calling data or information they are supposed deposits. Okay, you just read out this, and it's really an interesting thing. Calling these collections of documents information storage and retrieval systems. Okay, calling these collections of documents available online, new big data, what we call it as information storage and retrieval systems, is tantamount to calling a garage a transportation, storage, and retrieval. Can we call like that? A garage as a transportation, storage, and retrieval. So that's how we are calling the collection of documents or the data available, big data, as information storage and retrieval. Okay, but by confusing vehicles, so the transportation, storage, and retrieval is confusing the vehicles. Someone has switched on your mic. Okay, thank you for muting. Okay, by confusing vehicles for potential information with information, one put again the problem of you see, it is a, don't say databases are not a repository. Okay, so it's a collection of documents. So database does not contain data or information, exactly as a garage does not contain transportation, because data as well as database are nothing but process. Here the data is a process, because the data is produced by the social actors, with the users, user generated content, user generated data. Okay, so as well as databases are nothing but it is a process. It is not a data, as how you mentioned earlier, asked the question about secondary data. No, their data is a data which is available on the database, where we are taking that data from the database for analysis. So the data, the unit, the what you say, the perspective, the nature won't vary. But here in the big data, it's a process. It is a process nothing which has been made clear. So, okay, it is so how database does not contain data or information, exactly as a garage does not contain transportation. Garage is not a transportation. No, that's how we mean it here. Garage and database as for transportation and information processing. So this has been made very clear by our information communication theorists, Shannon and Weaver. Hence, the case of information data are not discrete entities. If you go take a data from a secondary database or secondary data source, that is a discrete entity. But here it is not a data or not discrete entity, which is treated as a packages which can be transmitted from one point to another. Okay, which can be collected and stocked in a deposit, or which can be extracted like precious minerals from mine. You see how they are mentioning the data. We can extract the data like which can be extracted like precious minerals from a mine. That's how we are doing for big data analysis, extracting the precious minerals. Still we substitute, you see, the data unit of measurement. We are substituting the unit of measurement for data in storage, like how we are mentioning the data as in a quantity bit, for it is measured, for what is this measured. The process is the case of information which reduce uncertainty. It's not a quantity, but as everybody knows, the dimension actually matter for big data: gigabyte, petabyte, and exabyte. Okay, so here data, what they mean is, don't tell it as a garage as a transportation vehicle. No, don't tell the collection of documents data as a information storage and retrieval system. Databases are not a repository. It is just we can be extracting minerals from the mine. Okay, so some consequences for building a, what are the consequences? Let me come to the end of the presentation. What are the consequences for building a data science for a social research? So the previous reflections what we have seen regarding database provides some note or some insight point to some consequence to develop a data science for social research. Okay, first of all, the centrality of research questions. As I said, the contextualization, the centrality of research questions are not for abstract reasons related to support a theory, but mainly because questions play a strategic role in generating data. So because your research questions plays a major role in generating data, extracting data, collecting data, and curating data. So research question plays a major role. It is not just a reason related to the supremacy, supposed to the theory. They create conditions. The research questions create conditions to collect data, the triggering process to what to collect data. So this will relate to the data-driven science. So research question. And the second, after the centrality of the research question, we should not forget that those tools. So in case of big data, becoming digital, with search engines, their algorithms are not neutral devices. So the internet has no curriculum, no normal values, and no philosophy. Okay, we should have some tools. It has no religion, no ethnicity, no nationality. It just brings on the data, the railroad course of it. Okay, putting data and abundance of data. Okay, it doesn't have anything. So we should not forget those tools in case of big data, digital data, and their algorithms which we need to capture the data. And the third point is the processual character. So digital data with social research, we'd like to see the unneutrality of the tools required to process the data. Retrieving, collecting, and processing them make clear the social science knew from the very beginning. As the first one, retrieving, collecting, and processing the data is very important, even if they sometimes to forget it. So instruments used for processing data are very important, which is important for the process of construction. Constructing what? A meaning. Constructing the meaning of your research, where we can relate this to the research term like constructionism, constructivism. Put another way, they are not first data. The tools, because it's a data, exactly the data collected through a questionnaire and analyzed with a dedicated software produced both by the questionnaire and by the software. The same way, data pertaining to the social media, the processual character, the same way data pertaining to social media are produced by the algorithms of the digital platforms. Find them using the digital tools. You see, I'll tell you an example. Those days, no, there were some tools and applications. It's an algorithm to extract data from the social media, which the digital tools which were utilized for extracting the data and processing them by your research question. Okay, so the most it is very important to see these consequences, how to build this data science as a social data science for a social science research. The centrality of the research question matters, and should not forget that those tools collecting, organizing the team, and the processual character of what process is going to involve in your big data science or data science for social research. Just consider these questions and consider these areas, then we can take it to forward to the next level of social science, social research. Okay, and the data science, the sociological point of view, as I said, no, in the previous slide, no, it's a re-emergence of data-driven science, which is opposed to theory-laden science. I said as hypothesis-driven science. That is typically of post-positivist social sciences. So the objective, no, of the session, no, is to what is the contribution apart from post-positivism? Because if you take the sociological point of view, no, in the research, no, not only this post-positivism is not only the point of view in sociology research. There are other points of view also. Constructionism, social constructionism, interpretivism, inductive research, and deductive research. Okay, there are many point of views in sociology, but this theory-laden science or hypothesis-driven science, which is a typical of post-positivist social science, has been re-emerged of data-driven science, which is opposed to the post-positivist science. Is apart from other sociological paradigms, other sociological views, which is interpretivism and social constructionism, which may give the development of research and thinking about data science in social sciences. Okay, so the first what we were discussing in the earlier slides, like data scarcity to data intensive society, which re-emerge with this theory-laden science. So this form of what we call it as empirical research, that is neo-empirism, implies both epistemological and ontological assumption. You see, see the picture, see the figure here. According to post-positivist thinking, no, data are not objective and neutral. What we have is the researcher, the reality, and between these two is the instrument. So you see, researcher, and the reality. Between these two is the instrument and ideas in the above figure. So it sustains to the inductivism, where a proposition of scientific if proven from facts. So research is data driven. Furthermore, it supports data objectivity, where data are considered as neutral observation of reality. So it is not only a post-positivist social sciences, the another techniques and challenges which take it to the interpretism and social constructionism, which helps the sociological point of view of this data. Okay, and qualitative and further, I was telling in the previous slides, like the triangulation of information, no, qualitative, quantitative, and both approach for triangulating the information. So the data revolution is undermining uh, the already weak boundaries between quantitative and qualitative research. Okay, that we have to accept. Data revolution is undermining the already weak boundaries between quantitative and qualitative research. Data are a construction of the observer, and they are embedded to a specific point of view which must be exploited in all its components. You see, the data revolution has been a redefinition for the boundaries of this discipline, the foundation of new interdisciplinary fields where technology plays a greater role, such as I said, the computational social science and what we call it as the digital humanities, because the social actors plays a major role in generating the data, as we denied the data or the databases are not the repositories. So this is a new interdisciplinary field where technology plays a greater role. Okay, in sociology, data revolution is undermining the already weak boundaries between this quantitative and qualitative research. The big data arena, this fact, in fact, blends difference between textual and numerical data. Often numbers, text, and even images merge into the same database. Okay, is this technology. Moreover, the user generated content constitute a massive amount of data which are classified and analyzed through the techniques of what we call this contextualization, is a sense making and meaning construction that have features to these data analysis, that is deep data analysis. That is why these mixed methods researchers know, who have always been keen into integration between quantity, quality, and paying great attention to the development of new data in use in sociology, which is the mixed method. Qualitative and quantitative is going to be the mixed method. So this data revolution is going to dismantle or erase the boundary line between the qualitative and quantitative research. So for sure we can take this what you say, in interdisciplinary context. In interdisciplinary context, a constructionist approach may be useful to make the interpretative schemes. Data are a construction of the observer, and they are embedded to a specific point of view. The agreement between observer, so the data is not neutral, they are political. See, if you see in a political sociological point of view, no, as I showed this, it is between the researcher and the reality, where the instruments and ideas in between help us to know the theory. The same way that the data are a construction of the observer, and they are embedded to a specific point of view with the researcher's point of view, which must be explicated in all its components. So the data are not neutral. The vision of the discipline, data are not neutral, they are political. And if you see in the economics point of view, they highlighted selection and definition of what has to become the informational basis of judgment. You see, between who adopt this cognitive pattern. So the researcher here matter. So sociologists should therefore, sociologists, social sciences should therefore develop more research about to not only the technical addresses which guide new data research, but also about the normative and political imperatives that shape the background knowledge that it is used to make sense of this new data. So as a role of a social scientist, it is not only to address technically, because computer programs are there, computer algorithms, people with computer science and statistics background. It's not a matter to concentrate more on the addressing the technicality, technical development itself. It is therefore to develop as a social scientist more research about normative and political imperatives that shape background knowledge that is used to make the sense of this new data. So it is because the more than others, the epistemological tradition, critical approach to the data, reality, and social knowledge After the computational turn, it is now time for the constructivist turn, because the computer science has done much in machine learning and computer algorithm, no doubt, as the decision trees, and we are in the advanced level of decision trees and neural networks in the techniques, data mining techniques. Now, after this computational turn, it is now our turn and our time for the constructivist turn to get into this data science and make this very efficient, effective methodological approaches, methodological training techniques into the data world, new data world. So it's going to be our turn by just learning the techniques, and we will hope for the best. Okay, that's it for today. If you have any questions, you can ask.